chosen one. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because right now there is a quiet shifting in your life that feels like loss, but is actually down to the bone, a move of holy protection, a mercy dressed as subtraction. Right now, you keep replaying the phone calls that never came, the invitations that stopped arriving, the group chats where your name used to light up bright with laughter, but now there's just silence, long stretches of nothing, an empty place where once there was warmth. You feel the sting behind your ribs, the ache at 3 a.m. when you want to reach out. But your hand hangs in the air because you already know they won't answer, and it's easier to swallow the loneliness quietly than to risk asking again. Let me talk to you about the difference between a release and a rejection. It feels the same to the wounded heart, but in heaven the two are not the same at all. Let me take you deeper into that space where the difference shows itself. Right now you're walking circles at night, staring at the ceiling, obsessing over the "what did I do?" thoughts that loop in your mind until your jaw aches from clenching silent grief. It's real. The way your stomach drops when you see a photo of them out together, arms slung around shoulders, the group intact and moving on, as if you never were part of it. That's the spot where shame tries to build its nest. But I want you to see it clearly. There is a sifting happening here. Right now, you are not being cast aside as garbage. You are not the problem. You are being lifted, separated, set apart. Just enough so you don't get poisoned by what's growing in the ground you used to call home. Let me break this down for you, because the pain is old and sticky, and it tells you all the old lies. It says you're unworthy, too much, too little, hard to love, the extra baggage no one wants. That voice roars in the absence, not just sometimes, but every lonely night, every unanswered message, every time your birthday passes with fewer texts than last year. But I need you to hear the truth. Let it wrestle with those lies. There's a release that's ordered by heaven, a pulling away so that what's ahead of you isn't derailed by what you're leaving behind. You keep looking for reasons, for closure, for someone to apologize, but there is no closure when God does the releasing. He waits until you're done demanding a reason, so you'll finally open your hands and receive the gift of being set free. Now listen to this carefully. Discernment is the gift you're being forced to develop right now through this very ache. Release is not when people walk away and leave you empty. It's when heaven moves you out of connections that became contaminated, but you hadn't noticed because the poisoning was slow. Rejection will bruise your ego, but true release spares your spirit. True release doesn't just take away what was familiar, it saves you from seeds that would only bear bitter fruit. You're feeling pain tonight, but the pain is a labor pain, not a eulogy, not the death of your significance. It's an uprooting so something greater can be born. Let me take you right into that 3 a.m. hour, because that's when this truth feels most distant. You toss in your bed, you check your phone, a blue glow painting your face, hoping for a message that doesn't come. You scroll through old texts, reading the laughter from a year ago, the silly plans that never happened. You start replaying every last conversation, terrified that you missed some signal you should have caught. The silence is deafening, but your heart won't stop pounding. Maybe you take a pill, something to quiet the mind. Or maybe you grip your pillow harder, whispering prayers you're not sure are being heard. It hurts in your chest. Feels like pressure, like being crushed, but not quite. Not enough to break, just enough to keep you from breathing easy. Your skin prickles with anxiety, cold sweat at your temples, mind racing as you fit together puzzle pieces of conversations, trying to see if you really were too much that night, too distant, too needy. You catch yourself shaking, biting tears, scrolling past their new photos with ache turning bitter in your gut. You open the Bible app, swipe through a psalm, try reading out loud. But even the promises sound hollow and far away in the silent room. You switch to music, but every song reminds you of friendship lost, the echo of laughter you're sure you'll never feel again. By 4 a.m., the exhaustion is heavy. But sleep is a mocking promise because the ache slips under every thought. You decide tomorrow you'll reach out. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, maybe it's your pride, maybe you should apologize. But something stops you. Dread, wisdom, exhaustion. You're not sure which. Then the sun slips through cracked blinds and the ache doesn't vanish. Morning brings no relief. You get up, face still swollen, and step into a day where you are unseen, but obligated to smile at work, to answer emails, to keep moving while every part of you feels hollow and glassy. Let me show you what happens next. In real daily moments, not just in your heart, but in the life you're living right now. First, let's talk about finances. You thought these friends were your network, your worth, your ticket to opportunity. But ever since they faded, there have been moments, small and strange at first, then growing, where doors creaked open without their introduction. Applications you submitted quietly, opportunities you thought went ignored, suddenly get a reply. Not all at once, but slow and steady. A scholarship comes through, a freelance job lands in your inbox, a bill you dreaded gets covered by a refund check or an unexpected cash gift. You start to understand God had to clear the noise so you'd see provision didn't come from their hands. Money that would have bought your way in, money that went to shared plans, is now free for seed, for building the real thing that's in you. Now let me explain the shift in your relationships. At first it seems the circle is shrinking, and yes, some days it feels so small you wonder if anyone is left at all. But slowly, new voices come in. Not flashy, not loud, but steady. The friend who checks in at just the right moment, who feels safe, who listens instead of performing. Maybe it's just one or two, but they see you for real, not for leverage, not for stories to tell at parties. The conversations are deeper, honest, patient. You realize what you lost was transactional. What's coming now is covenant. Each new bond is a healing, proof that release is preparation for what is real. Let's talk about your health, because you don't notice at first how much tension you carried trying to hold those circles together. You start sleeping deeper, maybe one night then another. The twitches in your eye, the headaches that pulsed behind your skull start to fade out. The stomach aches, the nervous buzz before group get-togethers disappear. Even your skin clears up, breath comes easier, and you find a pace that lets you rest without anxiety chewing the edge of every moment. Your body knows the difference between striving and safety before you do. The release is medicine, not just for your spirit, but for your actual cells. Let me show you how your platform and purpose change. Before, you felt invisible, ignored, always watching someone else live loud while you faded out of focus. Now, slowly, quietly, then suddenly, people start paying attention to what you really carry. Someone shares your post, an old mentor circles back, you're invited to speak or serve in ways nobody noticed before. Gifts you set aside resurface. Your name is mentioned in rooms your friends never had access to. The favor is real, and it's not coming from circles you tried to force. Heaven clears space for your voice and your vision, and doors swing open that no person can slam shut. Now hear me. There is always spiritual torment when a sifting happens. Guilt creeps in. Shame shouts. Old wounds bleed. Sometimes you smell the smoke of old betrayal, and for a moment you wonder if you really do deserve this emptiness. But then with time you feel a strange new freedom. Not because the pain is erased, but because you survived it. You see the lies for what they are, brush them off. The spiritual haze lifts, and what's left is sharper, lighter, filled with the quiet confidence of someone who knows God did not abandon them. He promoted them. Chosen one, this is your decree. They wanted you to keep begging for entry, but heaven called you out to inherit rooms they can't occupy. They kept you out of the chat. But now you have clarity they'll never know. They hoped you would shrivel in isolation, but your roots are going deeper than ever. They withheld affirmation, but identity is being settled in you. Finally, completely, irreversibly. They left you on red, left you for dead, but morning is here and you're still standing. Release came not to expose your rejection, but to unlock your restoration. They wanted you small, anxious, forgotten. Overnight you have become rooted, appointed, chosen. Right now, as you hear these words, what looked like subtraction is revealed as multiplication. What felt like loss is actually gaining. It's release, not rejection. Suddenly, overnight, now. I want you to listen with every bruised place in your heart, because what's beginning now is a reversal so quiet your enemies can't sense it, and so unstoppable it can't be undone. You've spent so many hours replaying everything you lost, scratching at closed doors, studying the timeline of your own abandonment, searching for evidence you were ever to blame. But that old soundtrack is being interrupted. The sorrow that pressed down on your chest is yielding to a strange sense of permission. The weight slowly shifting as if you're allowed finally to breathe. The space left when friends faded is not a wasteland. It's deliverance, open ground for new roots. The more you try to fit yourself back into old rooms, the more you feel the shrinking, the suffocation, the mismatch, because heaven has already changed your dimensions. You don't belong where you're not honored, not anymore. Let me show you how reversal comes in ways nobody expects. It shows up when you stop chasing. It arrives the moment you release your grip on conversations that once tethered you to validation. Right now, when your spirit tries to settle old debts with people who aren't paying attention, you notice the urge to perform is replaced by the call to just be. People who discounted you are about to see what happens when you refuse to make yourself small for their comfort. You're learning that your peace is not fragile, your value not negotiable, your worth not conferred by their attention. The famine of invitations made room for the feast of purpose, and divine reversal moves in the details. Suddenly, the circle that ignored your gifts sees other voices seeking your counsel. New communities find you, not desperate but established, whole, healing, ready. They're not picking you off the ground, they're searching you out because you carry what they need. Now let me show you vindication, the part where heaven's justice rises and the truth that was hidden is revealed in daylight. It doesn't come through dramatic arguments or public apologies. Real vindication shows up in fruit. The same people who left you out find themselves observing your quiet endurance, your unexplainable provision, your doors opening just as theirs start to jam. They whisper about how you moved on. They notice you laugh with freedom that isn't forced. You become living proof that being let go was not abandonment, it was rescue. Vindication looks like the invitation you didn't beg for, platforms you didn't politic to enter, relationships built on patience that's been proved in fire. It gets more specific than that, because vindication is not a philosophy. It's a play-by-play shift in the ordinary days. Right now, there's a friend of a friend who paid attention while the old ones turned their faces away. That one saw you serve quietly, saw your heart break, but also saw your hands keep building. Months ago, they watched as you sat overlooked and their spirit marked you for favor. You'll get a message, a generous gesture, an introduction to someone who opens the next chapter. Listen carefully, because this is how vindication works. It comes looking like nothing at all. Just a coffee, just a project, just a call. But it sets a new trajectory that nobody alive can block. Let me break it down farther, because the world keeps spinning and you'll be tempted to believe the reversal isn't real. The ones who dismissed you will hear your name in places they thought you could never reach. You will sit across from people they tried to gatekeep you from, not because you demanded entry, but because the gates they built weren't designed to withstand the favor God placed on you. Vindication is quieter than you imagined, but its effects are louder. You become undeniable, unafraid, unfazed. Former friends may double back, send tentative texts, offer nostalgia as a peace offering. But you'll recognize the spiritual shift. You don't need to beg their understanding. You stand grounded with your head clear and your heart intact. Now we step past reversal and vindication, moving into commission. And this is where it goes from personal comfort to holy responsibility. With every door that closed, a hunger grew in you, a craving to find what is real and to give what you wish you'd received. That ache reshaped you, split you open, and let purpose root itself deeper. You don't just long for acceptance, you long to become a sanctuary for others who are still wandering in their night hours, struggling in their silent exile, watching the same friends fade into memory. The empty tables, the unreturned calls, the invitations that dried up. These things broke the surface of your life so you could build something that lasts. Listen, commission is not about starting a ministry or launching a brand. Sometimes it's as small as noticing the overlooked one at work and speaking life to them. Sometimes it's praying for the lonely neighbor you used to envy. Sometimes it's having the humility to confess your seasons of bitterness when others share theirs. Because nobody can minister comfort like someone who bled in isolation and found God's voice in the quiet. You're being commissioned now, by the same hand that released you from fake connections, to steward real ones with integrity, with compassion, with fire in your bones and patience in your words. Where others carried click, you carry covenant. Where others offered surface, you offered depth. You become a shelter, not because you know all the answers, but because you know from scar to scar what it means to wait for morning. As you move in this new commission, let me remind you, you don't have to keep rehearsing your wounds as credentials. Your pain does not define you, but it does make you dangerous to darkness. Because nothing terrifies hell more than a healed chosen one, unafraid, undistracted, unseduced by shallow belonging. You step into the room with authority, you bless and do not curse. You forgive not because they earned it, but because you refuse to carry what heaven already lifted. Your presence is a rebuke to pettiness, your joy an affront to every spirit that said you'd never recover. There's another layer, the supernatural flow that follows obedience to release. Provision that overtakes what friendship failed to supply. Peace that arrives before you have answers. Wisdom that comes from invisible places. The right word, the right moment, the right idea, the right connection. Breakthroughs that look strange from the outside but feel inevitable from the inside. Money arrives just before a bill is due, or a resource appears at the last hour, or a helper comes divinely appointed when you would have sworn there was no one who cared. These are not coincidences, they are confirmation that release is not just protection from harm, but preparation for abundance. Everything you lost becomes seed for what is springing up. The grief you laced through sleepless nights is being repurposed as rivers in a dry land. Fields you thought were barren are ready for harvest, not by accident but by divine engineering. Your wounds become wells. Your scars are proof of passage, not disqualification. You will find yourself called to rooms where the price of entry is a heart that's been tested by release and trusted by God. Everything is shifting. Everything is crossing over. Ripples you can't see are rearranging themselves right now, and by the time the world notices, you'll be too rooted in God's affirmation to care if approval comes late. And now, declared into your bones without hesitation and with all the weight of holy decree. They thought distancing would destroy your confidence, but it delivered you from codependence. They withdrew support, hoping you'd fade into obscurity, but you flourished in secret places they never visited. They smiled while shrinking your value, but now your strength is unmistakable, uncovered, undiminished, undeniable. They expected your gifts to dry up when affirmation did, but your oil kept flowing without applause, without platform, without their small circles. They prepared to forget you, but heaven marked you for remembrance that none can retract. You are released, not reduced. You are not the casualty. You are the testimony. You are not left over. You are set apart. Joy multiplies in your hands while bitterness slips through theirs. You see your own face in the mirror and recognize someone redeemed from the inside out, someone who doesn't need to bite their tongue or shrink to fit any old script. God used this fading to forge a future, to form a courage, to frame a blessing that is tailored for you alone. Everything that grew in isolation is ready now to stand in the open. You will lead where you once felt left out. You will call others into healing where you once pled for rescue. You will carry legacy, not just memories. Chosen one, you are the evidence that what once looked like rejection was heaven's release and earth's reversal. You are commissioned, not overlooked, anointed for this next assignment. Walking in favor, singing in victory, serving from a heart that has known release and now knows fullness. Let it be this way. They will search for a reason for your rise and find only grace. They will recall old slights but see only new strength. They will count you out, but your number comes up over and over everywhere the Spirit has gone ahead. They will rehearse what went wrong, you will demonstrate what went right. Every faded friendship replaced by covenant, every lost celebration swapped for double honor. Every sleepless anxiety turned into songs of deliverance. What they withheld in limitation, heaven returns in overflowing measure. You will know why it happened. You will steward what it produced. You will never apologize again for God's hand on your life. This is the reversal, the vindication, the commission, the release. It is active now. It is irreversible now. It is your portion, your inheritance, your unshakable testimony, suddenly, overnight, now. Chosen one. Lean in. And let me tell you what happens when the tables turn quietly in the night. When everything they counted as your weakness becomes proof you were preserved. There comes a time when the prayers you whispered in dark hallways start pulling fruit into the daylight. You used to crave validation from closed circles, but now heaven has shifted your appetite. What satisfied you then can't touch what's opening for you now. You notice it in the way your steps feel lighter. You don't press your ear against every closed door, longing to be let in. The longing has changed direction. Your expectation is rethreaded away from their empty promises, fixed now on the promises God kept hidden for just this hour. Each fading friend, each withering invitation, all those cold silences, they became the soil for a supernatural growth spurt you couldn't begin to earn. You see, a real reversal never announces itself in thunder. It sneaks in slow and steady until one day you look up and realize you've entered rooms without striving. The very people who withheld information, thinking to keep doors locked, watch in confusion as access comes unasked. The email that should have gone to someone else lands in your inbox. The mentor you admired from afar asks for your input. The opportunities that were so rare in the old circle now arrive in clusters. Too quickly for you to explain, too strategic to be coincidence. Let me tell you how reversal manifests in the small things. Suddenly your name is in conversations you weren't invited to, but favor seats you where no approval committee can block you. The connections piling up are not built on obligation or history, but on the unmistakable scent of destiny. There is a day, so soon now, when you'll cross paths in public with those once so important. They'll try a polite nod, a half-hearted smile, hoping you don't notice the awkwardness as they fumble for words. In that moment, you'll feel it. Not bitterness, not revenge, but pure clarity. You're not behind. You're not late. If anything, you've been delivered from the inertia of their comfort, and the look in your eyes will say it all. You walked through the ache, survived the drought, and emerge not just stronger but unmistakably whole. The grace you carry will unsettle them because it didn't come from them. You owe no apology for surviving. You owe no explanation for thriving. This is your vindication not just in public perception but in the landscape of your own heart. Vindication is more than others seeing your worth. It's when you see yourself without apology, without the need to explain, without begging for space at tables you've outgrown. Watch the ripple effect. Old acquaintances reach out under the pretense of just checking in, their messages laced with curiosity and regret. They want to know how you kept going. They want to know what changed. At first, it bruises something old inside you, but then you see it for what it is, a chance to extend what was never extended to you. Mercy, patience, a way forward. Let me take you into a concrete reversal, one that will play out down to the fine print. Perhaps there was a resume passed over, a pitch ignored, a dream battered by their limited belief. But unexpectedly, the very place that said no once. Now their organization is in transition, old leadership cycling out, new faces coming in. And suddenly your name is suggested as a solution, not a favor. You're not called in as a backup plan, but as an answer to a need they can no longer ignore. You walk in with steadiness, not desperation. They remember your faithfulness, your quiet excellence, your refusal to gossip even when it hurt. That reputation shuts every mouth that once questioned your loyalty or skill. Vindication in their eyes, but victory in your spirit. There's more to this because vindication always spills into influence. Those who cut you off now see others draw near, hungry to know what differentiates you from the crowds. They assumed your absence would shrink your reach, but instead your voice carries farther. People you never met bear witness to your growth, and they are drawn, not by spectacle, but by the authenticity that can only be forged in pain. You are given fresh assignments. Your advice is sought without your campaigning for it. The platform is handed to you not because you proved yourself to the world, but because you surrendered your need to beg for what was always meant to be given freely. Let me tell you about the commission God places on the ones who walk this valley without surrendering to bitterness. It's a weighty thing, this mantle of restoration, because heaven trusts you with the hurting, the disappointed, the outsiders still waiting in the wings. You don't need a microphone to fulfill it. Sometimes you'll be standing beside someone at the back of the room, seeing a flicker of your old ache in their eyes, and your story becomes their anchor. Every rejection is repurposed as welcome. Every scar becomes a map for wandering hearts looking for home. You carry an atmosphere that rattles the cages of those still trapped by the fear of being left out. You gather those overlooked by everyone else and show them by your life. The table God sets for you is not defined by how many sit around it or who brings the invitation. You learn to bless and not curse, even when the old group circles back, wanting access to what God has done in you. Your commission is to model a higher way, humility that does not diminish your strength, love that does not deny your story, wisdom that does not shrink from boundaries. When they ask how you survived, you tell the truth. You were kept not by your own righteousness, but by goodness that intervened when you would have settled for crumbs. You lead with softness where others thought hardness was the only defense. You refuse to prove yourself to people who would not have seen your worth if you'd stayed. Your integrity is now your armor. Your story gives others hope to release what needs letting go. You'll begin to notice the multiplication, doors opening not just for you but for those you bring with you. When you step up, you pull others out of hiding. Your courage unlocks opportunities for those who watched you from the margins. You create space for others simply by thriving in honesty, by refusing to trade your authenticity for access. You're the one they remember at 2 a.m. when crisis hits. Your number is the one they call, not always in public, but when it matters. That's what commission looks like. It's not always seen by crowds, but its reach is eternal. Now let me paint the arc of this new authority. Instead of explaining your journey, you exemplify it. Instead of requesting inclusion, you issue invitation. Instead of mourning every closed door, you celebrate the ceiling blown off your old limitations. You sense purpose calling you out of comfort, so you pour into others who need the encouragement you never received. Your wisdom becomes a map, your patience a healing, your presence a proof that being let go was being lifted up. You are trusted now by heaven, by those who need hope, even by your former critics who now sense their own emptiness stark against your fullness. You notice you're not afraid of subtraction anymore. When people exit, you don't race after. You bless them, quietly, sincerely, knowing what's for you is preserved and what's not will only grow toxic if forced. There's a peace that bubbles up where fear used to reign. You don't obsess over being misunderstood. You walk in clarity, knowing God is the witness to every silent sacrifice. The joy that blooms in you cannot be faked. The resilience you wear cannot be taught. This commission teaches you to bring light into every room without needing anyone to recognize the source. So let me declare it over you without hesitation, with the force of truth and the simplicity of mercy. They chose to walk away, but God chose to fill your empty space with substance. They faded until you were alone, but heaven populated your purpose with voices they never knew existed. They treated you like an afterthought, but God kept you in the center of every plan that mattered for your destiny. Their silence tried to unmake your worth, but now your voice is a shout in places their memory can't even reach. What they meant as closure was actually your commissioning. They thought their absence would cripple you, but you've turned absence into overflow. They kept their circles small. You've enlarged your capacity. They withheld what they could not sustain, but you are now drinking from wells they never dug. They said your season was over, but your influence is just beginning. Their leaving was loud, but your emergence is thunder, silent, decisive, breaking open everything that once confined you. Where they hoped your legacy would be loss, you have become a harvester of multiplied blessing. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not left behind. You are planted, prepared, positioned for every good work now coming into view. May it be that every limitation spoken over you crumbles. May every word of discouragement fall powerless to the ground. May every cycle of rejection end with you, and may a new lineage of favor, of authority, of pure-hearted connection begin from this very point. Your days of being overlooked are buried. Your nights of wrestling with abandon are sealed in the past. This is your hour to rise unafraid, to welcome what is new, to pour out where your wounds once leaked, to see heaven's justice rendered right here in your living. You are the reversal made real, the vindication made visible, the commission made irresistible. You move forward owning every part of the journey untouched by shame, bold in freedom, drenched in grace. From this moment, may the doors you enter never be suited for the size of your wounds, but only for the size of your calling. May those who thought your story ended in loss live long enough to see you flourish. May you gather all who are hungry for hope and feed them with truth your pain purchased. May every heart that broke apart on the road now carry fire to light another's way. This is established over you, a decree in the spirit. Your rejection was release. Your release is your rise, and your rise is just beginning. All your days vindicated, every scar transformed, every empty place now inhabited by purpose, every loss repaid in double measure. Suddenly, overnight now, you need to understand the magnitude of what's happening in your spirit right now. How the very ache they left behind is producing pure gold in the hidden places of your heart. Heaven wastes nothing, especially not the hours of confusion or those moments when you reached out hoping for warmth and found only cold. There is nothing accidental about who walked away or who stayed silent when you were vulnerable. This is not some random misfortune. It is an orchestration you wouldn't have chosen, a precise cutting away so that the branches that bear fruit remain. Where you felt gutted is where new promise is being planted, and every tremor of pain that runs through your old memories becomes testimony that even isolation is not wasted in the hands of God. Let me show you how this reversal is undeniable. Not once, not twice, not just in one area, but everywhere you look, evidence piles up. The years you spent sowing loyalty in thankless soil never vanished into the void. Right now, doors are opening that were welded shut against your prayers, and the ones who used to act as gatekeepers find themselves with their hands empty. Your faithfulness is remembered by the only one whose memory matters. There are meetings being scheduled about your gifts, your name, your story, while those that believed they could erase you from the future are stumbling over how your presence is the very thing required to move forward. What they said was delay has become deliverance. Their delay is your advancement. Their forgetting is your fresh start. You are stepping into the kind of vindication that is unmistakable. A restoration so public, so thorough, that even those who hoped your circle would always be small are forced to witness your enlargement. But pay attention to this, chosen one. True vindication is not about them, not about showing off, not about forcing anyone to eat their words. No, the real reward is how you no longer crave what once captivated you. The applause is replaced by peace that doesn't fluctuate with who's watching. Your energy is no longer exhausted on mending places that only ever broke you. Instead, you find yourself energized by building, planting, loving without conditions. And the more you pour out, the more you are refilled. Vindication comes as relief. Vindication comes as rest. Vindication is the joy of not needing to be seen to know you are significant. Now you've crossed over into the deep waters of commission, where wounds have been transformed into wisdom. The healing you've received has increased your sensitivity, and now you discern, sometimes before words are even spoken, when someone nearby carries the same ache you survived. You greet the misfits, the outsiders, the weary, inviting them near, not as the broken trying to fix the broken, but as one who knows the shape of restoration and is willing to extend it patiently, one encounter at a time. And as you do, you realize the commission was never just about recovering what was lost, but about being sent to create what never existed, spaces where people do not have to shrink, hide, or beg for belonging. This authority is weighty because your heart has been tempered by real fire. You don't offer cliché encouragement, you speak from trenches. You lead by lowliness, not superiority. Your life becomes a living, breathing rebuke to the fear that says exile is final. The way you greet a newcomer, the way you linger for someone who's hurting, the way your eyes truly see people. This is kingdom work. This is reward beyond measurement. Your inner circle changes. God knits new people to your side, not for convenience or applause, but for mission, for refuge, for mutual sharpening and joy. The world will try to define you by what you lost, but the Spirit calls you by what you carry. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the increase. That was heaven's answer. You only owe the world your obedience. You only owe God your gratitude. Now you sense the commission as a gentle tug, sometimes disruptive, always persistent. A fresh assignment, a new venture, a prompting to bless, to give, to show up, to stand up for the overlooked. Nothing wasted, nothing random. Every heartbreak is now a holy seed. Let me declare again, and let it thunder in your memory for every time the enemy tries to resurrect the sting of old rejection. You are not too sensitive. You are not too demanding. You are not abandoned. You are advanced. You are not undesirable. You are reserved for better. You are not neglected. You are protected. They thought they were writing your conclusion, but they had only marked the preface of your real story. The crowd that faded cannot witness the next chapter. Their absence is the proof you're headed somewhere they never intended to go. So now let the decrease settle over every wound and every waiting place. They closed circles, but heaven decreed expansion. They built walls, but God made you a gate. They withdrew comfort, but God became your consolation. They kept score, but God kept promises. They thought silence would shrink you, but the quiet became your breeding ground for faith. They spoke endings, but God whispered beginnings. They could not sustain what was never meant for them to sustain. They could not write you out of a plan they never authored. You are moving forward, released from old bondage, loosed into new liberty. You are not confined by yesterday's losses. You are not defined by other people's decisions. Right now, as you hear these words, your future is being drawn toward you with cords of favor. Doors swing open. Old wounds are sealed. New songs are breaking forth in the night. The more they try to forget your name, the more heaven highlights it for every new season. The more they try to explain your departure, the less relevant their explanations become, because the fruit speaks louder. You are not a remnant by accident, but by intention. You are not the last choice. You are the first pick for what comes next. Every empty chair left behind at the old table will be multiplied as new places are made for others like you. Ones who need to know exile is never the end. You welcome them because you know the language of lonely, the dialect of deliverance. You walk in a favor that humbles you, a kindness that cannot be faked, a hope that is stubborn and bright. You were let go, but only so you could be sent. Chosen one, let it be settled in your bones. Your setback is now a setup. Your sorrow is a seedbed. Your absence from the crowd has become your presence in destiny's core. You are not waiting for vindication. You have become the evidence. You are not begging for release. You are commissioning blessing. Right now, suddenly, overnight, your story overflows with restoration. It is final. It is irretrievable. It is permanent favor, ordered steps, multiplied peace, now and always.